Hello, this is your midweek check-in. Basically, there are a couple things that I just want to review with you guys, things that I've noticed for this week. Key things are companies, basically clarifying that you will have two companies that you work with through the majority of the semester. The company that you selected for your attendance, so each week you'll post about the same company, and we'll go over some of the criteria that you should use to select your company, because there still are a handful of you who have not picked a company yet. The next company that you will have throughout the semester is the company for your final project. That will be from this list. So this is the company you select from. You don't just randomly pick what company you're going to be doing your final project on. All of these were selected to make sure that you can get all the information that you need for your final project. So select out of this list for that company. Next is for others, basically for the discussion activities and examples. So the other company / discussion is anything where your assignment or your exercise, like with week 2, where you're just picking a random company. There's no commitment to that company beyond what you've selected for that example. And what you can see is when you go to the forums right now, several of you have selected Nike, even though it's not the same company that you're using for attendance. So just to make sure that you're clear on, you have a company that's yours for attendance, a company that's yours for the projects, and then kind of random companies you'll pick throughout the semester for various exercises and assignments. The next thing I want to emphasize is checking for feedback. So I do go through the forums and I look at what's going on throughout the week. Pretty much every day I check it. Usually I'll check it a couple times a day just to kind of make sure that everyone is on the same page and everyone's understanding what they've been asked to do. So if you're not checking for feedback, it's going to influence your grade probably negatively as time progresses. So if I see a problem, if this is a problem that's specific to you, usually I'll email you. But if it's a general problem, that's something I see other people making, I'll just leave a comment in the forum so that way other people know not to make that same mistake. I would definitely be checking back on a regular basis to see if I've left you any comments that will help you to make sure that you're getting all the points for your different assignments. The other thing that I want to emphasize is reading other student comments. One of the best ways to make sure that you're following the assignment and you're getting all of your points is to look at what other students have done. One thing that's been really helpful is I've noticed if you look at the first person who posts on these forums, a lot of times they've gone through and they've made sure to meticulously match the example that I've given, and that's usually going to be a good sign for how the assignment is supposed to be completed or how the discussion posts are supposed to be completed. Next is going to be discussion problems, so problems that I am seeing in the discussion forum for this week. One problem is replying to versus posting a new thread. For week 2, you are supposed to reply. Do not click create thread. That is not what I want you to do. I want all the replies, all the posts for the discussion stuff to be a reply to my comment on week 2. That way it's a single thread and everyone can see what's going on easily. The next problem that I've noticed are the global videos. So with this week, you're supposed to pick one video that's meant for a US consumer and one video that's not meant for a US consumer. So you can see this is what my post looks like. Here's my company, what I picked. So you don't have to pick YouTube commercials. You could pick advertisements. You could pick magazine ads, any number of advertisements. I just went with YouTube commercials. And then I describe the first commercial, and then I describe the second commercial, and then I post links. But before each link, there is this is the American commercial. This is for the non-American. Where is it from? It's for Japan, so Japanese consumers of Pepsi. Here's a commercial for them. The other thing I want to mention is that you cannot use an ad for the same company that someone else has already posted. It doesn't matter whether it's the US or the global ad, it has to be a different ad. One of the other things that I want to point out, though, is I think where some people are having some confusion is the difference between multicultural ads and global ads. So I've pulled 2 examples from the forum from this week. So this one is Nike and it's a multicultural ad. This one is Nike and it's a global ad. You can use these links and find them in the forum to see what the difference is, because a multicultural ad basically is an ad that's still targeted towards the US, but it makes you feel a little bit more internationally minded, whereas the global ads, what I'm trying to get you guys to find, are ads that are meant for non-US consumers. So just because they have people from other countries in the ad doesn't mean that it's not meant for US consumers. So there was one ad that I saw that basically had, I think it was an Apple ad, and it was a very nice ad, but the thing was, it was everything from all the other countries was being translated into English. And so to me, that's probably a sign that that ad is still meant for an American consumer or a Western consumer. And so that's the goal, is to get you to think beyond what do ads look like outside of the context of the US. The next thing, I think we've already briefly touched on this, is labeling the ads. So make sure that you have the American ad labeled as American ad and the non-American ad labeled for what country it's targeted towards. Next is in attendance, the links that are supposed to explain ticker symbols. So I pulled one of the first people who posted this. This is not meant to be, it's not specific to that person because other people have used this exact same website. When you follow this link, you will find that it does not explain ticker symbols in the slightest. All it does is it gives you information about how that stock is performing right now. Your job is to find a website that explains how do you read ticker symbols, because if we go to this website, what does the fact that it's in red mean? What does a down arrow mean? What does this information mean? What does KR mean? There's a lot of information here that, and if you handed a person on the street this, they wouldn't be able to understand. So your goal is to find a website that explains how they can read that website, not something that tells me about the stock. I can easily go through, once you guys have posted your ticker symbol, I can go find the information about your stock. But I want you to find something that explains the stock. The other thing for this week is also, this week is a no wiki link, so no wikis. The other thing is that you need to make sure that your link is different from somebody else's. So the fact that a bunch of people have used this NASDAQ.com is already a problem. But just make sure that you have different links, especially for people who have Nike and Apple, because you guys have a bunch of people in that. The last thing that I wanted to make sure that I touched on is selecting companies, because we still have a handful of people who have not picked their company for this class. So when you select your company, you need a US company, because companies outside the US have different policies about what information is released. That next, you need a publicly traded company. If it's not publicly traded, you will not be able to find the information that you need, especially like for this week and future weeks. The third thing is that you need a parent company, not a subsidiary. This is highly applicable for people who have Google, because Google is not the parent company. There is another company. And then check for full companies. Right now, the only full companies are Nike and Apple. So that means if you in the first week selected a company that was a non-US company or not publicly traded or it had any of these problems, and you're going back in and picking a company for your future assignments, you know that Nike and Apple are not available. You need to check what other people have claimed before you claim your new company. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Like I said, there's usually an instructor's note right here, so you can kind of see what information I'm asking you for. I will go in and update this as things are full, but this shouldn't be terribly applicable for much longer because most of you have claimed your companies. But if you have any questions about any of this content, how you pick your companies, how you find links for this one should be pretty straightforward, but Googling that, if you have problems, let me know. The other thing that we talked about was making sure that you label your companies correctly and that you find ads that are global, not multicultural. And then the last thing that we talked about was making sure that you reply to the thread, don't create new threads. So if you have any questions about any of this or just need to talk to me, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. Have a good day. Bye.